There were lots of places that I could start Independence Day. But Pedro Ramirez kind of knows how to get to my heart. So as I was looking at this list of invitations that I had, I thought the place where I needed to be most was right here in Kern County. But let me tell you why. Because for some inexplicable reason, we allowed the Republicans to steal a congressional seat. For some inexplicable reason, we allowed the Republicans to steal a Senate seat. For some inexplicable reason, the California Democratic Party didn't put Kern and Mono and Inyo and Fresno and Kings at the top, and Tulare at the top of their agendas. This is the first Young Democrats event I've done since I got elected. And I wanted to come here specifically, besides because I like making Pedro happy, I wanted to come here specifically to make a point. This is where we belong. This is where the Democratic Party has to be. This is where our future is. This is where we can build. I didn't really know if I would come and there'd be 10 people, 15 people, or over 100 people. Yeah. But look around you, this room is wonderful. Now, it goes without saying that we face some challenges. Every morning I wake up and I dread opening my Twitter feed. A, because there are people who tweeted me not very nicely, and the leader of that is a guy named Donald Trump. But here's the problem. People find it entertaining. They don't realize what's actually at work. See, Donald Trump's a smart guy. Because while we're paying attention to his talking about people bleeding from whatever, or, you know, wrestling with CNN, they are dismantling America. Think about the line. One nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Now, just a few minutes ago, we heard all about how we've changed the law of the land and given everybody those inalienable rights. How many of you believe that's true? Not very many. And that is why we're in this struggle. That is why we must be in this struggle. I want to tell you all a story that I don't know why I haven't actually talked about this much this last year, but I think it kind of critically describes what got me to this place in my life. I've always worked in inner city emergency rooms and trauma centers. And in 1985, and by the way, those hospitals took care of people whether they had money, whether they had insurance, whether they were documented, whether they weren't documented, whether they were working, whether they were indigent, it didn't matter. And in 1985, I took a job as the head nurse of an intensive care unit at a little corporate-owned hospital in the West San Fernando Valley. It was one of those offers I couldn't pass up, or so I thought. And one day they brought in a 54-year-old guy, a radio DJ, had been on the air doing a show and he had a heart attack. And there was a skirmish in the emergency department because he had no insurance. He worked in a non-union radio station, he had no insurance. And they wheeled the patient into the intensive care unit, and I thought, well, gee, even in a corporate hospital, they take care of people who really need it. About 30 minutes, maybe 25 minutes later, an ambulance crew rolls in, come to take this guy away. And the administrator of the hospital and the utilization review nurse literally high-fived in the middle of the ICU and said, we turfed him. Now, for those of you who don't know what that means in medicalese, it means we dumped somebody out of our hospital to somebody else's hospital. As you might not be surprised, we got the phone call 25 minutes later from Olive, one of the county hospitals, to tell us he had died en route. 54 years old. That is what propelled me. It's what propelled me when I was running the hospital in Imperial County and we realized there were no healthcare clinics for those farm workers that we opened up a clinic in our hospital. It is what has propelled me lo these many years through every iteration of healthcare that we could possibly have tried. And my friends, we're in two crucial healthcare moments at once. We're in a national healthcare moment and we're in a California healthcare moment. This is the day that Medicare for All has to become the law of California. We can figure out how to finance it. We can figure out how to pass the ballot measure we need to get around Prop 98. But we must do that. Fact of the matter is, I'm lucky. I've lived a good middle-class life. I have good insurance. Something happens to me, I'm going to the best hospital. How many people in this room don't have good health insurance? How many of you only have health insurance because of the Affordable Care Act? How many of you think about being one accident away from being bankrupt? Exactly. Exactly. So we have to be dedicated to this. We have to be dedicated to this. Because this is the moral and ethical fight of the day. At the national level, they're trying to peel healthcare away from 22 million people literally overnight. But you see, we're not paying attention to it. Because we're watching Donald Trump tweet. And that's the brilliance of Donald Trump. While the Congress is playing their little game, the television networks aren't talking about healthcare. They're talking about his fight with CNN. They're talking about his fight with a has-been Republican congressman and his sidekick on MSNBC.
Thank you.
That's what they're doing. So we have to refocus, we have to engage, and we have to not, for 1 minute, let ourselves get away from that.
Exactly.
So here in California, we're the start of retaking that Washington world. There are 7 congressional seats that are in play. Just last week, we met with the leadership of the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee early. Not just the folks that are already on the ground here, because they are, but with the Chief Operating Officer and the National Political Director and the National Field Director. Because what we want is cooperation, working together, working with the grassroots activists, working with the folks who actually know how to do this here in California, and not interference. That's what we want. We have a little secret in this regard this time that you all may actually have no reason to know. See, the vice chair of the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee is now one Ted Lieu. Ted Lieu is a California Congress member from Los Angeles. Ted Lieu is somebody who has close, very close ties and relationships with grassroots activists all across Southern California. And Ted Lieu is one of the most outspoken members of Congress that we have. So we've also been meeting with Ted Lieu to make sure that we're able to do the work that we need to do. We have already got organizers on the ground in some of the targeted districts. We just got authorization and funding to bring in more. This is the way we have to build and work. But it can't be these out-of-towners come in and tell us how to do it. It's got to be they come and work with us. Because you know what? You don't have to tell me where the local Jack-in-the-Box is if I live here. I know where it is. You don't have to tell me where the local project where poor people live is, because guess what? I live here.
That's right.
And that's what's got to be our mantra and our measure. Now I'll tell you, in the short time that I've been chair, we've made some already very significant changes to the structure of the California Democratic Party. For starters, I implemented a shared governance model with the officers. This is the first time ever that all 5 officers are part of the planning and execution of what's going on. We have conference calls every other day, and we've been meeting in Sacramento together as a team at least once every other week. Second, I flattened out the staff. I took out the executive director, and I have 4 division directors, a political director, a communications director, an operations director, and a finance and accounting director, all who report directly to me. So that they don't have to go through a bunch of intermediaries, because they're adults who know what they're doing and know how to do this job. And I'm more interested in getting the work done than in having that big, huge structure. But this is just the beginning of what we can do and what we have to do and how we have to fight. Look, my being here, I hope, sends a message to you all of my seriousness and my commitment to this community, to these districts, to you all, so that we can elevate this community. I don't want to hear about farm workers bending over in sludge from fracking that has chemicals in their hands and their feet and they're breathing it in. And then we wonder why there's a 64% asthma rate. I don't want to hear about kids in Fresno have 62% asthma rate because of the particulate matter in the air. I don't want that to be the stopping point. I want us to be working together to fight that. So, I want to end by saying this. There are many different places that we all as Democrats are. Philosophically, energetically, who we wanted for state party chair, who we wanted for president, who we wanted for whatever. If we want to save this earth, if we want to save our humanity, if we want to create opportunity for the future, we've got to work together whether we agree on everything or not. And I am 100% committed to working with everybody in this room, because that's the way it has to be done. So let me say this. We know what unites us as Democrats is to believe that no child should go to bed hungry, that nobody should sleep out in a tent except when they're camping, that nobody should be turned away from getting health care because they're not covered, that nobody should be dying of pollution in the air and the water, from the water, that fracking has to stop, that every child in this state deserves a free, high-quality public education regardless of their status, provided by public school teachers who belong to unions, that the National Right to Labor Work Act that they're trying to pass in Washington is not going to be the law of California, and that men and women in California will continue to have the right to collectively bargain and stand up together. That's what we all share the belief in. And so I pledge to all of you to join with you, to be a partner with you. You're only an hour and 40 minutes up the road from my house, at least on an early morning like this. But seriously, I pledge to you to work with you as a partner. I pledge to work with you to make it work, because that's what we have to do. We're so much stronger when we're together. We're so much stronger in collective action, and we're so much stronger when we believe that an injury to one is an injury to all. And that's why it's so symbolic that we're here in the Central Labor Council headquarters having this July 4th celebration. Because one day it really will be with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much.